I want to begin, however, with a letter that we've just received, and I want to introduce you to Makoko Priso. Makoko, will you stand up and identify yourself? Makoko is from the Union of the Populations of Cameroon, and he's brought with him a letter that he's asked me to read out on his behalf through the meeting today. Dear friends, says Makoko Priso, the Union of the Populations of Cameroon, the UPC, has been informed about the suspension from the Scottish Parliament of the 4 Scottish Socialist Party members of Parliament, Colin Fox, Caroline Leckie, Rosie Kane and Francis Curran. The Secretariat of the UPC Steering Committee expresses their party's total disagreement with this suspension and condemn it, since it appears as an unacceptable violation of the right for every citizen in a democratic nation to say what he believes. The UPC wants to express its full support to and solidarity with the 4 Scottish Socialist Party MSPs. We have been informed in the last period by our comrades in the UK about the firm stand taken by the SSP to support the African people's struggle for freedom, democracy, social justice and unity. Please, we beg you to accept our deep and full solidarity and our very warm greetings this weekend. Thank you very much. I want to move on and introduce you to our panel of speakers for this closing session. I want to introduce you first of all to a man who really needs no introduction to an audience like this. We've heard him speaking many times before. Ammar Anwar is Scotland's foremost human rights lawyer, and he's a close ally of the Scottish Socialist Party in very many campaigns. He's also made his mark in a string of campaigns in Scotland, the Surjit Singh Chokha campaign, and was the representative, the legal representative of the Scottish Socialist Party in our fight against the parliamentary ban. An anti-war activist, a principled socialist. A big hand for Ammar Anwar.
Thanks, Colin. I want to start off by talking about terrorism, because I think what's been happening over the last few years and what we will see happen next week when the so-called parliamentarians in Westminster debate the issue of terrorism, what they should understand is terrorists can plant bombs, but it's only this government that can take away the fundamental freedoms, and that's exactly what Tony Blair is proposing to do in this country. It's his new laws that are adding to a sense of injustice that terrorism feeds on. I just came back yesterday from a conference that took place in Manchester. Respect for holding a conference where I met a number of people from London, from Manchester, from Yorkshire, the Muslim community, people talking about gun-toting police officers raiding the community, sectioning off streets, stopping and searching areas as at will when they please, and having newspapers and TV cameras always in crew with the idea that somehow all these communities were full of terrorists. And this government carries on talking about the issues of treason. We have new laws coming into play, and they now want to talk about treason laws. And anybody who dares to speak out against this government will also have the accusation of treason levelled against them. I think the height of treason, that's the starting point for us as socialists, is to put the people of this country at risk of attack is the height of treason. To send young men and women recruited from dole queues to kill and to be killed in a lie is the height of treason. They told us there was weapons of mass destruction, there weren't. They said the Iraqi people would welcome us with garlands, and they didn't. They said the world would be a safer place, and it isn't. And they said Al-Qaeda was active here. It wasn't then, but it is now. Lie after lie after lie told to the Parliament, to the British people, and to our own soldiers. And now New Labour wants to intimidate us. They want to intimidate us because they're not able to persuade us. But 85% of people in London and around this country said after July the 7th that the London bombings were linked to Blair's war on Iraq. And Blair has a number of proposals which he says will protect Britain. Not one of the proposals that he wants to debate next week would have protected Britain from July the 7th. It wouldn't have stopped a single bombing in this country. Blair is trying to brand anyone who disagrees with him as a terrorist or as a supporter of terrorists. He's saying that anyone who disagrees should leave this country. There's only one, and I'm actually stealing this line from somebody at the last meeting, but there is only one extremist organisation we should be worried about in this country. Only one extremist fundamentalist organisation, and that's New Labour. New Labour who changed its name to And I had the pleasure of going to Scotland Yard a couple of weeks ago with some grassroots campaigners from England. And I know that when the Assistant Commissioner was sitting across the table from us, one of the comrades got out the magazine, The Private Eye, where the Chief Commissioner is saying, "I'm innocent," and in the background there's a cop with a gun saying, "Shoot him then." So that was the sort of icebreaker we decided that we would have with the Assistant Commissioner. So he got out the Private Eye, and the Commissioner, Mr. Kapoor, said to me, said, "Mr. Anwar, have you been to Scotland Yard before?" And I said, "Yes, several times." And I said, "What for?" And I said, "I've been here several times demonstrating outside when your officers have murdered black people." Now, that is the reality of what the Metropolitan Police is about, and that is the reality. And I heard some nonsense during the G8 where people said Scottish police are better than English police officers. They are not. They're exactly one part of the same state. Scottish police officers have the right to shoot to kill just as much as the Metropolitan Police Force do. And when the Commissioner in England, in London, says that they want to shut down radical mosques, they want to shut down mosques that organise violence and support terrorism, they haven't been able to shut down one single mosque in this country, because there isn't any mosques. We are tired of our community being blamed. We're tired of our community leaders standing up and apologising on behalf of the community. We have absolutely nothing to apologise for. Most of the leads about the bombers actually came from the Muslim community. And the reality is, if these new laws are passed, those leads will dry up, the community will feel stigmatised, it will feel isolated, and that is exactly what happened when Britain was trying to deal with Irish terrorism. It prolonged the conflict, and it led to the miscarriages of justice. It led to the Birmingham 6, it led to the Guildford 4, and it acted as a recruitment sergeant for the IRA. And if Blair is truly sincere in minimising the threat to Britain, there's one option for him, and one option only. He should resign, he should withdraw the troops from Iraq, he should end the occupation of Afghanistan, he should end the occupation of Iraq. And when you have the likes of Hazel Blair standing up as a new Home Office Minister, giving statements, what can only be described as one thing: it's a green light for racists up and down this country to go out and attack black people, to attack asylum seekers, and it's a deliberate attempt by the Home Office, by the police, to re-institutionalise racism. Because what they say in the Home Office now is it's okay to target Muslims or Asians because they are terror suspects. And we've seen the consequences of that climate of suspicion and hysteria with the paramilitary execution of John Domenez. There is absolutely no justification for shoot-to-kill policy in this country. No justification for the murder of John Domenez. And the reality is, for many Muslims in this country, many people in London, when I went down to London last week, on one part it was funny walking up with 5 members of the Muslim community, because I was the only one who didn't have a beard, and walking up to Scotland Yard, many of the police officers as we passed with their guns, getting more and more nervous, the walkie-talkies going, leaving that area and then going on the tube, and actually feeling physically nervous because of the way that people looked at you, suspected you, that paranoia that is built up within the community. And that is the consequences of this climate of hysteria. And the only people responsible for this is the Labour government. And the cause of current terrorism is neither religion nor a hatred for our way of life. London was not bombed because of a hatred for our way of life. What is the result of is political. The double standards that the Muslim community, that the world over sees what happens, it's injustice and double standards, and what that means is that we need to deal with the injustice and double standards. They targeted us because of our close and personal and special relationship with George Bush and our involvement in his wars that he's declared. The Kenyan, the Tanzanian embassies, September the 11th, Bali, London, Istanbul, Riyadh, Jeddah and Casablanca, they were all seen as part of what Muslims see as the real axis of evil, which is the United States of America, Britain, Spain, Australia and the Saudi dictatorship. And it is immaterial, because we've also read within the newspapers about bin Laden, whether he really cares about the Palestinians, whether he really would stop his attacks if the Americans and the British withdrew from Iraq. I don't really care what bin Laden cares about. What I do care about is his constituency, whether his constituency really cares, and that constituency now stretches from Lagos to Leeds, from Kuala Lumpur to Glasgow, from Baghdad to Buckinghamshire. And what I'd say today to you as a Muslim and as a socialist is this. This is a conference that's organised by the Scottish Socialist Party, and I'd say to the Scottish Socialist Party, you have a responsibility to appeal to that constituency. It's time that the SSP appealed to the thousands of Muslims across Scotland and went into the mosques, stood outside the mosques and went into the mosques.